Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank the University of Toronto and the Critical Digital Humanities Initiative, especially Digital Humanities Network, for this amazing conference. I'm going to present a paper on Laura Bassi, Women in STEAM in Times When They Were Taught to Be Housewives. I am Monica Mastrantonio, PhD in social psychology, and with a large background in women's voices, and especially letters from these women from the past. I am a visiting professor at the University of York, the UK, and this is where I've been pursuing letter studies and women's voices from the past. I'm going to start sharing my screen where we are going to show all these slides. Okay, I hope you can see that. So, Laura Bassi, Women in STEM in Times When They Were Taught to Be Housewives. Laura Bassi, who was Laura Bassi? Laura Bassi was born in 1711 and lived until 1778. She is recognized as the first physic in academic and at the University of Bologna, Italy. Bologna was a kind of hub at her time, so most of the main issues and in labs and research and all data was kept there. Especially Laura, she had a diverse background because she was taught very young by a private tutor, so since the age of 5, and she had access to Newton's physics, which she developed much longer. So basically, she's recognized as a learned woman of her time. She also had access to all Latin books, and she spoke it, which gave her a much wider access. And she was able to build her own lab. All of these are amazing opportunities for her. Then, and also if we want more women in STEM, we should be looking at these aspects: women's education, women's language, and access to labs. Then the making of a scientist. So she had access to all of that. She also had a very expertise professor who had a great expertise in infinitesimal calculus. And later she married Giovanni Giuseppe Verratti, who was also a professor at the University of Bologna. And the marriage meant to be both partnership, building of a family, starting of a family, and also their common interests in physics, in heat, and other kinds of physical laws. At her time, it's important to note that Laura Bassi was one of the most important influencers in academy, in the Institutes of Science, and so on. So besides her well-equipped lab, she gave classes to more than 500 customers. So this would signify today a wide range of followers. She talked directly to the Pope and to many other scientific committees, and she corresponded with scholars, other physicists like Nollet and Beccaria, and she was a member of the Scientific Academy. She also assisted Voltaire to get into the Academy of Sciences. So as much as she received best influences she also became a great influencer. So here we have Voltaire. He wrote to Bassi, and she said, "Dear Madam, I have been wishing to journey to Bologna in order to be able to find my fellows." And he says, "In London, there's no Laura Bassi in London." So although he was visiting one of the most prominent cities of that time, Laura Bassi was a very important figure at her time and totally forgotten afterwards. Our objective here is to use personal letters to understand the self and the phenomenologies in the phenomenological approach. By doing that, we need to understand the background of our authors as much as why they are writing or receiving this kind of letters. So Bassi was at the same time mother, a familiar figure, but with a scientific mind and output. So she was very much dedicated to her guests, to her students, and to her writing and publication. So it's a pity that much of her work has been totally forgotten and not available today. This is all her dissertations, so we have more than 28 works from her. Here we have a golden medal that express all her recognition. And here's some sentences from her and from Voltaire. So very few things in the world are certain, but mourning is one of them. And also about marriage. I have chosen a person who walks the same path of learning and who from long experience I was certain would not dissuade me from it. So her marriage choices were based on her career and her dedication to physics. Then we have 4 remaining papers that are available today, and one of them is this from 1757. It's called the Problema Codon Hidrometrico, and it's all about the law of the liquids and how they get out of the rolls. And here also the same thing. She published on mechanics and how and evolved and make much progress from Newton's laws. Her recognition came during her life. She was considered the Minerva of academy. She was appointed a chair of experimental physics. She earned a salary which was not common at all for women in that positions. And she was the first woman in Europe to hold such a position. Indeed, after her death, she's still remembered in Italy, in Bologna, and there are schools and streets named after her. Our method of analysis here is based in phenomenology. So we understand that the phenomena that we are looking for is in the letters, and we get onto them to understand that. This way, I'm going to show you 3 of her letters, okay, and how this recognition and this importance was seen at her time, because these are some of her corresponders. This Nollet was a famous physicist at her time, and he writes to her asking for favors. So I would say that Laura Bassi had concentration of power, not only expertise in academia, but social and empathic expertise, because she was corresponding with the most important minds of her time and also sharing favors. And this is really amazing if we want to understand the way women do science and can potentially grow their expertise. So here he's asking also for a favor. So everybody that goes to Bologna, they write to her and they say, oh, show this person around, please make contact with this person. And this is again the case of Nole asking for one of his friends, Mr. Dobreu, that did good education and was going to visit Bologna. We have a second letter, okay, that from Spallanzani, who was an Italian priest and physicist. And this physicist was visiting Scandinavia, and he also asked for favor for Mr. Horace de Saussure, who was another leading figure in at their time. So again, asking her to introduce this person to her saloon, to her group. So this was all about networking in academia. That was as important as it is today, but done differently. And it was done by letters. And here we have a third letter, okay, from Alessandro Volta. Alessandro Volta is physicist, chemist, a pioneer of power engines. And he also asked for Dr. Campi, who was visiting Bologna, and also comments about his thesis and his work. So again, exchanging also some information. I find the construction of an air lamp was born at the end of volume flammable. So it's all about connections and building their experiments. And that's how she became the most important woman in physics in history. Our results are based on the analysis of these personal letters and what they contain in connection with other disciplines. Letters are documents that permit us to access the self and multiple contexts. They are one way to reconstruct the past and to look upon that from now. We can't totally reconstruct the past, but we can understand it in connection with the present. So I use Russell's phenomenology to understand these connections among the letters. And from the first content analysis result, I get that she was an influencer. She made great favors to a group of people. And above all, she was a high estimated scientist. Secondly, the importance of letter mapping, understanding these connections of letters and drawing the multiple connections and network of each of her correspondents. So I would highlight the importance of digital humanities across the world, get access to these past letters, and above all, take this online. And I'm translating her letters, which are in Italian, so more people can have access and understand the past. Lately, and that's the academic work. So these are some of the references that we used, and I'd like to thank you all. This is my email, so if you need anything, do not hesitate in contacting me. I'm going to I think I will stop sharing and get back to here. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you had a great time, and that's it.